Today I'll be discussing what the benefits of dealing with real estate. So if you just came into some cash or you've got a bunch of cash and you're wondering where to invest it, I cannot tell you whether it's a better idea to invest in a business or to put it in the stock market or to put it in real estate, but I can help you understand how I, as lender and as a multifamily investor, look at analyzing real estate so that you can get that calculation so that when you do compare a business, so that when you do compare investing in the stock market, are able to make a very educated decision and see how to deploy that capital for the maximum return. Um, let's get into it. Today we'll be looking at this property one of my viewers sent in. It is a triplex. This is a triplex that has been partially renovated. So partially renovated means partially unrenovated. So it seems to need some um, work on the other in some of the other units. This property features upper and lower living spaces which capture sweeping views of downtown LA, double pane windows. Both buildings offer unparalleled city views, so we know that there are two buildings here. Um, let's see what the photos look like. There are only two photos here, apparently. And let's see what this looks like on LoopNet. Maybe it will tell me um, what uh, what the rents are. Otherwise, we'll have to guess what the market rents are, get this place fixed up, and then start charging market rents. So this doesn't seem to have popped up. So let's see here, LoopNet. This one, perhaps. There we go. So there's a property record. It's not even showing up for sale here. So one thing we can possibly do is, well, let's see. What do we need to know? We need to know um, the gross rents and then figure out operating costs. Because it's a triplex, we can also structure this as owner occupied in one of the units and rent out the other two units. So that's the strategy we'll also be exploring in this video. And if that one works, that's the strategy we will go with. If that doesn't work, we'll switch to a pure investment property. Let me see here. And the reason for that is that when you do owner occupied, is that your down payment requirements are much lower. And if you're an investor, you want to put the least amount of cash and get the most amount of return for it. So let's see here. Zillow average rent. And we need to know the zip code, 90065. I also want to know, so this is a decent average rent from an investor standpoint. For a studio, you're at 1,600. One bedroom, you're at 2,000, and a two bedroom, you're at 2,700. This has 12 beds, 9 baths. So if there's a triplex, you can guess that each one has 4 bedrooms and 3 baths. Sorry, 3 bedrooms, 3 baths. That's pretty good, but it's only 1,536 square feet, so I'm a little confused there. I do want to understand how this building's laid out. Let's see here. Title. There we go. And let's see if we can log in here. There we go. And so what I'm going to do now is pull up the title report for this property. I'm also going to look this property up on Zemus to see if if it's RSO'd, if it's got a rent stabilization ordinance. 315 Isabel. So yes, you cannot see it here because my head is probably blocking it. Let me zoom in. So this property, two buildings by the way, 315 and 317, and you can see it in the photo here. 317 there, 315 here. This has rent stabilization ordinance. Let's see. And you can see that right there. That says yes. So you're going to be limited to a maximum of 4 properties or 4% per year. Okay, so yeah, this property is RSO. That means your rental increases are going to be limited to about 4% per year. I'm not exactly sure how that law works because it said 0.9% of inflation or 1 to 4% max per year. So I'm not sure where that variable kicks in, how they're doing that exactly, but and I think that intentionally left it that vague so that they can do whatever the hell they want, and I don't like that. I don't. If they're going to limit it 0.9% of inflation, they should limit it. They should just be clear about that. If they're going to limit it to 1% of it, well, per year, they should just do that. I hate when they leave it vague so that they can be arbitrary about it. I don't like arbitrariness, especially in law when it comes to writing laws and the legal system, because that just opens the door to abuse. So that's my rant as far as laws go, but everything else, hey, that's what you voted for. Let's see what we can do as far as figuring out how this building is laid out. So this is 4 bedrooms, 3 baths. Units, 3 units, 2 buildings. Triplex, 3 units, any combination. So it is authorized, it is legal because it's recognized as a triplex. So, and the living area is 1,500 square feet. Lot size is 4,000 square feet. So that seems like a very tiny lot. So when this says, 12 baths, 12 beds, 9 baths, that's a little, I don't know how accurate that is. This is residential 1. So it means you probably don't have space to add an ADU. It's got upper and lower living spaces. So I'm not too sure, to be honest with you. I am not too sure what can and can't be done here, but we are going to take a look at it and see what we can, how we can do this to still make it a worthwhile investment. What needs to be done to make it a worthwhile investment? So what we're going to do here is we're going to go FHA, and let's say you're earning, $30,000 a year. Now we got 1 bed, 1 bath, so we know that each unit is earning $1,995, but we also know 1 unit is earning $2,700. So we're going to choose to live in the smaller unit and then rent out the bigger unit and 1 smaller unit. And this is based off the assumption that 1 unit is 2 beds, 1 bath, and the other 2 units are both 1 bed, 1 bath. Because according to this, there are 4 bedrooms, 3 baths. So we know that at least 1 unit will have 2 bedrooms and 1 bath. So let's see here. So we've got average rent of $2,700 and $1,995. $2,700 plus 1,995. So this is our monthly gross rents, $46.95. So I'm gonna put $46.95 here, and this is assuming you have no other debts. Well, let's see here. If you just recently came into money, and let's see, how do we do this? Let's say 500,000, maybe. Property taxes on buildings in LA. This is 700,000, and I'm talking no negotiating here. Percent. So we're looking at $87.50 a year in property taxes. You're probably looking at somewhere between $1,600 to $2,000 a year. I'm just going to put the most expensive one. And I'm going to give you an interest rate so that you don't have to pay any property tax, or rather closing costs, because you're going to get lender credit towards the closing costs. So you've got $6,000 a month in qualifying income. Your total monthly debts are $896. This is property taxes and insurance. Your max mortgage payment is $1,789. This includes mortgage insurance and principal and interest. Here is your max loan amount. So you're looking at a max loan amount of $300,000, which means if you're going to buy a $700,000 building, you're going to have to put $400,000 down just to qualify for this particular loan. FHA goes as low as 3.5%. So if your income was, let's say, let me go back here first. FHA goes as low as 3.5% down. So if you were to only put 3.5% down, that means your max purchase price is $313,000. So you're looking at a home that's less than $320,000. You put 3.5% down, you get a $302,000 loan amount, and this is what your P&I would be every month. And that's because according to this income right here, $6,000 a month or $72,000 a year, that's what you would be able to afford. Now let's say that you already earn, or maybe you have a co-borrower, right, that is earning $100,000 a year, and now your income combined with theirs is $130,000. What's your max purchasing power? Your maximum loan amount is $915,000. Your maximum purchase price is $948,000, and that's at 5.875. I'm actually going to raise this interest rate to 6.25%, and here's why. This says this triplex has been partially renovated. So I'm going to say that we're going to go with an FHA 203K loan, and that comes with a higher interest rate. And then I've got to raise the interest rate a little bit higher as well to cover the closing costs, so that you're only worried about the down payment, which is $32,000 at that point for a $900,000 purchase price, or a loan amount of $882. So if we do some simple math here, we go 882,240 minus the purchase price. Now we've got $182,000 to repair this building, right? So let's see what this looks like as an investment and what kind of return you get on your cash. You've got $32,000. So maybe you do not have $500,000 in liquidity. Maybe you only have $100,000 in liquidity. Maybe the money you came into is $50,000. Well, if you have, for this particular property, $32,000 would be enough and still leave you some left over. So what I'm going to do is put this in my cash flow calculator, but really this is an exit calculator. And I'll probably rename this, but I do like cash flow calculator because it is catchy. So So we're going to go with the average rent here. Well, let's see here. First, let's keep it. Let me move this here. Get rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of that. And then we're going to look at the address, copy and paste this here. Get the link. And let's see here. This is a $700,000 purchase price. We're looking at 3% in commissions, 1.25% in property taxes, and our down payment is 3.5%. As far as mortgage insurance, we're looking at 0.55, and we set a 6.25% interest rate. Rehab costs, right? So that's actually going to be the same percentage, 6.25. And we are doing, what did we say? 182,240. So let's say it costs 150 to rehab this place and get it up to market conditions. 30 years, interest only period 0. Yearly inflation. So now we got to figure out the yearly appreciation of this building. So this is what I like to do. Let me copy and paste that and go to Google, because I found Google gives the best results. DuckDuckGo's just gives me the formula and puts in hypothetical numbers. Google actually does the work, and it does it quick. ChatGPT does the work, but it's really slow. And their numbers are sometimes higher, more favorable. I like to be more conservative. So looking at this, we can see what happened here. So this is, you know what? Let's see here. We did have this. So we can actually look back in the past and see what this sold for as well. So we only have 2 recorded purchases. We had 2004, which was 22 years ago, and we have 2005 when it was transferred in and out of trust. We don't have any sales price here. We don't have a sales price recorded for this. So that means this family must have owned it for a really long time. I was hoping to see what the purchase price was for this property when it was originally bought 30 years ago, because that would give us a very accurate description of the appreciation for this particular property, rather than an average for the area. But we're going to have to go with the national average here, or not that national average, with this particular average here. And this is rental inflation rate. So I'm going to update this yearly appreciation rate. And this, even though this area is 4.86, we're going to be limited to 4 just because of ZEMIS, because of the RSO, the Rental Stabilization Ordinance. So that's okay. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not necessarily a deal breaker as long as the property is appreciating fast enough. The real benefit of real estate is not cash flow. It is equity appreciation. And I'm going to show you ways so that you can really get the most bang for your buck with this. So this is a long-term play. It's like putting it in a very, very uber high yield savings account. And then you pull out your original investment, and then you still get to keep all the cash. So you're not having to sell it or liquidate it in order to benefit from that. So we're looking at a 7.23% appreciation rate. And so let's say now we got to figure out what this building's going to be worth after we do the repairs. And so we got $150,000 repair costs, $700,000 purchase price. So that's at 850 already. So 700 purchase price and $150,000 repair costs. So we are at 850. So we know that this building, after we repair it, at minimum is going to be worth 850. But there's also a premium that you get to charge that the market is willing to pay for a building that's already in great condition, and that might be at 900,000, so $50,000 premium. But it also might be $950,000, or it might be 1.1 million. We do not know. So what we're going to do is take this gross rent, right, and figure out the average gross rent multiplier for this area. So average, let me go back to Google. Average GRM for, what zip code was this? 90065. 90065 triplex. Between 11 and 13. So here is what this means. Gross rent multiplier. Gross rent multiplier. Normally I would use cap rate, but I do not know the cap rate. I do not know the operating cost for this building. I do know the gross rents based on market rents, and this is after we repair it. So what we have to do here is do a little big, and we know the annual gross rents, AGR. So we know annual gross rents are $46.95. And gross rent multiplier is equal to purchase or value, rather, over annual gross rents times 12, which is equal to $46.95 times 12, which is $56,340. Okay, per year. So we know that gross rent multiplier is equal to value over 5640. What we don't know is the value, and gross rent multiplier, we have a range of 11 to 13. Now normally I can just choose something in the middle like 12. Some people will choose 11 because it's more favorable and optimistic, and some people will choose the number 13 because they're more pessimistic. And here is why 13 is pessimistic and why 11 is optimistic. So based on the properties of math, I can just swap these two around, right? So I can go 56,340 is equal to value over GRM. So the bigger this number is, the smaller this number is. And the smaller this number is, the bigger this number is. So 11 is less than 13. So if I were to put 11 here, right, this number becomes very big. If I put 13 here, this number becomes smaller than it was when I used 11. So as a result, if I use this number, I'm being pessimistic. If I use this number, I'm being optimistic. So this is why I am going to use 13, because I can use 12, and which is sort of right in the middle average, but as a investor, I want to protect my downside. So what I'm going to do here is GRM over value over AGR, annual gross rent. So to get this right, GRM times AGR is equal to value. I believe that's correct. Let me see here. Value over GRM. So if this is, let's say, 10 million, over a GRM of 1, that means my AGR is equal to 10 million. If my let's see here, 10 over 2, that means my AGR is equal to 5 million. Yeah, so that makes sense. Okay, great, that works. So let's see here, GRM of 13 times 56, this is actually increasing my value, which would lower the cap rate. 56,340 times 13 is 732, 420. That's not good. But I'm also looking at it like a triplex. And this is based off 2 units. So let me add the other unit in there. Let's see here. Because we're trying to figure out the market value. We're going to do the underwriting portion later. We're going to do the cash flow portion later. But right now we want to figure out market value. So 18, well, this would be 19, 15, 16, 1, and that would be 6. So 6690 times 12. 6690 times 12 is 80,280. Okay, so that's my annual gross rent. So let's update this a little bit. 13 times 80,280 is equal to, so this would put it at 104. Okay, so it looks like I was wrong in that assumption. 13 will give it a higher value. Let's see here. Well, let's start with 12. 80,280. This is my high value. I want to go with the lowest value that it would give me, times 12, but I'm just marking it down, 963, 360, and then 11, 80,280. And I just want to, for viewers who are new to this channel, I make a lot of mistakes. I do try to catch it as soon as possible, because I do go through my work and I show the work. I don't just you know, go with the assumption and make that declaration. For me, I like to think out loud. So I do show my work so that I can catch those errors and so that you can catch those errors. So let's see here, 11 times 80 times 280, or 1180. 11 times 80, 280 is 883,080. So this is the valuation I'm going to go with as far as after repair value. So I'm going to scroll down here and use that number, 883,080, 883,080. All right, we've got 3 units, but we're actually renting out only 2. And then we got 4695 divided by 2, 4695 divided by 2, which is the average. That's 2347, 2347.50. Hazard insurance we said was $2,000 a year Maintenance costs I am factoring in there at 3%. So that's $140 a month going towards maintenance. Assuming these have separated, um, let's see here, separated utilities, then they would be paying their own uh, gas, water, and electric, but there's a chance that it's not. So let's see here, what's gas? Maybe $50 a month per unit, so you're at 150. Water was probably what, $80 a month per unit, so you're at 240. Electric, maybe, let well, it's a triplex, um, but let's say, another $50. Let's say 80. No, let's say 100. 300 per month. So now your costs are going up. Now your cash flow is being lost. You're at a loss of $29,000 a year for your first year. Your second year, your cash flow losses go down. Your third year, they go down further. Your fifth year, rather, your 10th year, they go down to 20,000. Over the lifetime of this, you're losing about $188,000 a year just in cash flow. But here's the thing, even despite those losses, when you sell in 30 years, if you try to sell within your first 5 years, you're going to get a loss. 10th year, you're going to see a $205,000 profit. But your your 30th year, you're looking at a $4.3 million exit, a $4.4 million exit. And that's even when you're losing cash for the first 10 years. More likely for the first 19 years of this investment, you are losing cash flow. You're having to pay out of your pocket. But if you just think of it like a high yield savings account or an ETF where you're just dollar cost averaging and putting money into it every single month, you're still building equity. This is something that you will not get from just plain renting. And the real win here is that you walk away with a 5,400% return on your money without having to pay taxes. On your 30th year, you can sell it, walk away with $4.4 million in your pocket, or do a cash out refi for up to 80% of that because it's owner occupied. And now you've got 80% of $4.3 million. Well, not even, because now you don't even have to pay realtor commissions. So you're looking at 4.781,062 minus the cash flow you lost all those years, right? And now you're at 4.5 million, and now you've paid off the loan, right? You do a cash out refi up to 80% with the same FHA loan, and now you've got $3.7 million just sitting in your pocket, tax free. This is the power of real estate. Now, I cannot tell you whether you should invest in a business, whether you should invest in an office building, or put it in the stock market. I can tell you that this kind of return is very good in terms of real estate, because over 30 years, you're looking at a 5,400% return on capital, or a 55xing of your money. So let's say, and this is even choosing the lower GRM, this is even going with the more pessimistic valuation here, and pessimistic cash flow, right? So this is assuming zero vacancies. Let's say we had an 8% vacancy, and let's say we paid a property manager also. So now what is our loss in cash flow? Because these are additional costs that we have to incur. And now we're losing money every single year for 30 years. That's a $642,000 loss over 30 years. But if we just look at rents going up every year at 4%, even in an RSO'd area, we're looking at paying $7,000 a month on a $2,300 a month unit in 30 years. that's pretty, that's a very big loss. So if you were to do that over 30 years, right? If you were to just pay rent over 30 years, what does that look like? That's $3.1 million that you have spent in rent. Whereas in cash flow, if you were to buy it instead, you have only lost or spent $642,000. Um, if we look at the exit, now it's at $3.9 million. This is assuming you sell the building, right? This is how much you walk away with after you deduct your losses in cash flow, after you deduct the realtor commissions. You're walking away with a $3.9 million exit. But that's still a 4,900% return on your original cash injection. And your original cash injection, even assuming you had to pay closing costs out of pocket, is $80,000. Now, if your closing costs were zero, right? If your closing costs are zero, your cash injection originally is about $51,000. And now your return on capital is 7,800%. This is basically, you divide your exit by your original cash investment and multiply it by 100 to get it as a percentage. That's 79xing your return, your original investment. And let's see what kind of returns the stock market would give you. So let's see here. If we go with compound interest calculator, right? And your original cash investment is that same $51,000. So we're going to do that, right? And we're going to do the same monthly contribution as well. So monthly contribution here is what you're losing supposedly in cash flow. So cash flow wise, we are looking at $37,000 your first year, $36,000 your second year, fifth year is $33,000, and you see that is decreasing every year. So by your 30th year, you're old, you're retired. That's when you're paying the least amount towards rent, which is the mortgage in that case, which is $6,400 a year. Wouldn't it be great if your rent went down every year instead of going up? So let's see what this looks like. What is that monthly payment here? Let's go with the worst assumption, which is $37,000, right? So 37,607 divided by 12, that is $31.33 a month. So if we were to do $31.33 a month, and then we go 30 years here, and let's say S&P 500 between 7 to 10% per year, and let's say 10%, right? And we do this. What does this look like? So now we're walking away with 7 million. But we have to ask ourselves, are you really going to be putting $3,100 a month, $3,100 a month every single month for the next 30 years in the stock market? So let's say we only put $1,500. Now what does that look like? Now we're at $3.8 million, right? We're at $3.8 million, which is pretty good. It's not bad. So, and you don't have to deal with tenants. You don't have to deal with maintenance issues, but you still have to pay rent on top of that because you still need a place to live, right? With this, you've got a place to live and you're still collecting rent from others and you're still getting the valuation here. So this is on top of your rent. And as you can see, if you're renting a place that costs $2,300 a month, in 30 years, that's going to go up to $7,300 a month. Whereas here, based on cash flow, you can see your actual out-of-pocket costs. And your first year, you're going to be at a loss of $37,000. But then every single year, your rent just gets less. And when I say rent, your mortgage payment, your monthly P&I payment gets less and less and less and less. That by your 30th year, you're only paying $6,400 a month. And so if you're comfortable, paying extra, you can keep it at 3,700 or 37,000 a month or 3133 a month for the rest of your life, treating it as your rent. So now your rent for 30 years is fixed at 3133. Yeah, for the first let's see here. For the first 10 years, living there, your rent will be less than your mortgage. But after year 10, for the next 20 years, your rent's going to be higher than your mortgage. So even if you kept up that consistent 31, 33, now you're paying off the mortgage sooner without even having to refi and spend additional costs on the refi, and you pay that off sooner. But this is a pretty good return, comparable to putting 50,000 in at the start, 51,000 in at the start, and paying 1,500 a month. Now your exit is 3.8 million. That's taxable, whereas here, you're at 3.994 million. So an additional $100,000 with the rental property, plus you don't have to worry about rent. That's the beauty of this. And if you want, I can convert this into an average annualized return. So let's see here. Let's go to google.com. Kager formula, 30 years. And now you're at a Kager of 15.65% return, which is, now you're higher than the S&P 500, which averages 10% per year. You're averaging 15.65% per year. So that's the way I look at that. The other way we can do this is we can also do a cash out refi, right? So let's say year 10 comes along and you're like, I really wish I had that original $50,000 that I put into this property, that original $51,000, which includes the down payment, but also loan closing costs. So now you want to pull that cash back out. You can wait till year 5, you can wait till year 10, you can, let's say year 5 or year 10. So let's say year 10, you go ahead and you pull out that original cash investment. Now you've got a new loan for 30 more years, so you've actually got 40 years of paying this off. But your original cash investment is back in your pocket, so you've essentially got a place to live for free. Now by doing this, you're resetting the clock and increasing your monthly payments, so that might not be the best strategy if this is owner occupied and stays owner occupied. But as far as cash on cash return, even though this is an RSO'd property with the 4%, with a limit of 4% on the inflation on the rental increases per year, your yearly appreciation, I think, more than makes up for it at 7.23%. And because this is a triplex, you can do it as owner occupied, so your original down payment is much lower than if you were to do it as a pure investment property. So that's as far as it goes for my analysis of this property. Thank you for watching, and please like and subscribe if you'd like to stay in touch for the next one, if you'd like to be made aware of the next one. Until next time.